Thank you for joining in another exciting lecture. Within this lecture, we're going to learn about how to take a backup of a virtual machine and also recover the same virtual machine. And we also do restoration to another virtual machine. And also we do the restoration of the same virtual machine to a additional disk so that you can actually download that virtual machine disk and you can mount as that disk, and whatever the changes you want to take it, you can do that, like copying files, all that. So that being said, let's begin. So I have here a virtual machine called VM01 within this lab, and this VM is currently with Windows 2019 server working fine. And if you see here, there's nothing much in the extensions or in the backup. Nothing was configured in the backup also. You see here, there's nothing configured here. And this is a virtual machine that I have. So I just connected to the VM01 here with the RDP. And what I'm going to do is I'll be creating a simple text file just for this demo. So throughout this demo, we will be working with this simple folder and a file, like, I'll just rename this to a meaningful name like before backup, and I'll just create a text file and put some kind of values, like maybe a time or some kind of values, so that I know that this file exists. So that's it. I'm gonna save this file. This is a file, simple test file. So as a first step, what we're gonna do is we would actually take the backup of this virtual machine as it is. So to take the backup, I'll just minimize this virtual machine. And if you have quite new with this ASR, that's a site recovery services within the Azure within Azure services. So this backup goes to, normally the backup and recovery falls under site recovery services. And if you have not gone through that lecture, you can go through that lecture where we have demonstrated a complete physical site of your on-premises to restore and to take the backup and cut over of migration, all that we have learned within that lecture. But with this lecture, we are actually limiting to only the backup. So again, the backup falls, as we talked about, it's going to be Azure Site Recovery Services. It's going to fall in that ASR, so Azure Site Recovery. So now within the backup, if you see here, if I take the backup now, so it's actually enabling the backup in the backend. Nothing but this is a retention time. So when we say retention, till what date this backup should be there. So this snapshot of this backup, or the backup which we are taking. So I'm just taking for a month time, and when we click on backup now, so what is happening is within the backend, it's going to actually create a recovery vault called recovery services vault, here default vault, and also it is applying a default policy. In a minute or so, we are going to have a look on this, but in the backend, that's what's happening. Actually, it's actually creating in the backend a backup recovery services vault, and that's why it's going to work. So I just refreshed. So you see here there's nothing, but if you see here, there's nothing has been listed here, but it says that deployment is success. That means the deployment of what exactly it was success is in the backend. It was just created a recovery services vault. Now if I click on that backup jobs, it's going to show us, hey, I have done the backup configuration, which is completed successfully, and I'm now taking a backup of the virtual machine. So if you see the timestamp, this is 12/5 or 11/5, I'm sorry. So 11/5, that's a November 5th. So it takes a lot of time, maybe a 1 hour plus. So you see here it has taken 1 hour plus time. So I have just paused this and continued without any disturb, and this is actually in the next day where I'm actually looking to it, but it took 1 hour time. So if I just do a quickly refresh, I should be able to see here loading restoration point, all that information I should be able to see. So I just did the refresh here, and you see here success. It happened, the backup lost taken was successful, and I should be able to see here a application consistent backup was taken, snapshot and vault specific, and this was configured, and this was backup was stored into this recovery services vault. That's what the meaning of vault here. And if you want more information, you can always click on view all jobs. Now let's say now the backup is completed. Now I wanted to restore. For that, what I can do, so I just zoomed down. So if I reduce the font size, you can see very clearly. I'll set it to your comfort level of text zoom, and this is where it was stored everything. So let me give you a brief introduction if you are quite new to the recovery service vault. We do have a dedicated lecture within this section, or somewhere you can check out about the recovery services or ASR specific. And within this service, like we have to actually create a recovery service vault as a service, but when we enable on a VM, it was created default for us without going through that visit. So within this, you can actually go to the backup. So when we start with the recovery services, we can go with this getting started to take the backup and site recovery. Let's say you have 10 virtual machines, you would actually go and work with the backup from the getting started blade. For the site recovery, let's say you have a VMware, you have a Hyper-V, or you have a physical servers you want to migrate to cloud, then you would be using this site recovery services here. And in our case, we are actually working already taken the backup. That means that backup items will come here as a backup item. So you see here, there's a big list will come in a different category. You see here, this is talks about the virtual machine. If you're talking about any of the SAP specific or SQL, all that will come here. So anyway, here we are talking about the Azure virtual machines backup. So this backup, if I just click on that, I would be able to see here the backup was successfully taken the backup. So from where we are looking is, we are looking from actual recovery service vault. That's the only difference, okay? But if you just go back to the policies, whatever it was applied on that virtual machine was actually inherited or taken from this recovery vault or recovery service vault. So this is a default policy was applied. That's why the backup was taken, and it was keeping for us on a 30 days node. So that's the story in the backend. You see here, it is retaining for 180 days the backup point. So all this is happening because of the backup which was assigned from the recovery service vault. And if you want to edit, you can do all that changes. So this is just an overview. We did actually talk on this, a dedicated lecture is present, but you can check out here what's happening. So now if I go to my VM01 again, and just try to connect it. So if I try to connect, I should be able to connect with a password, and once I connected, I should be able to see my files which were there. So I'm just going to delete these files. So what we are trying to do is, now we will actually do a file level modification on this file, and later point we will ask Microsoft Azure Cloud to restore this virtual machine to the previous snapshot state. So that's what we are trying to do. So just to demonstrate, I'll just delete that file. So I deleted that file. Now I'll go back to backup and I'll say restore VM. So what happens is, it will ask you, hey, what is the state you want to take a backup? So I'll say I wanted to take a backup of a previous state that was taken automatically with the application consistency level, like we taken the backup of this virtual machine in the earlier state, may last 4-5 minutes back of the state which we have shown you within this video. So I'll just take that backup and click on OK. And now here we have a different option. So within this lecture, I'm going to cover all the possible options. The first possible option is creating a new restoration. What does it means is, you're going to create a new virtual machine. So the VM01 will be as it is. It's going to create a different VM. That's called, let's say I want to create as a VM02. So that's an additional one. And that's the first option. Second one is, I want to overwrite on my VM01. That means I need to rewrite everything on a VM 01 by taking one more backup. Let's say I want to just take a backup and then restore to the previous state. So that would override my virtual machine 01. That means I will lose the data if any latest changes that are happen after the backup. So I'm okay. If I'm okay with that, I can do that. So that's what we're going to do as a first step. And a second step we're going to do with creating a new virtual machine. And the last option is we don't want to create a virtual machine on an existing machine, nor to create a new virtual machine. Instead, I want to just take the backup of the disk. So just to mount that virtual disk to somewhere else, maybe within the Azure cloud, or maybe I'll just download and I'll extract the data that I wanted within that disk. So I can go on any of these options, but it requires few of these steps. Like if I want to restore from a disk, I can do once I've taken the backup, and also I can actually need to have here, if you see here, the staging location needs to find a storage account. So I need to create a new storage account. So I'm going to do that. So I'll just these are the options which I'm actually trying to show you, right? So I'm going to replace as a first step. So I choose as a replace, and this is where it needs a staging location. As you know, if you have gone through the storage account lectures in the past, all the virtual machines used to store their operating system disks also in storage account. So that's where the storage account bottleneck issues used to come. With the managed disk, the recent changes with the Microsoft Azure cloud, the virtual machines works as the independent of your storage account, right? So why do we need now the storage account? Is just for the staging. So temporarily it will store within your storage account, and then it will map back to this virtual machine. So this is going to be a staging kind of thing for a few minutes only. So if I go back after the staging completion, or after restoring this virtual machine, I'll not have anything on my storage account other than a simple JSON file that was just try to execute in the backend. So maybe 1, 2 KB of files, that's it. So not the actual disk. So let's see, I wanted to create a storage account for any case, either in a new VM or replacing existing virtual machine case. Also I need to have here a storage location, which is nothing but a storage account. So let's go back and create a storage account as a first step. And also, if I'm going to replace on the machine, I have to even stop the virtual machine also. But I just wanted to show you all these steps. So I didn't create the storage account, and also I did not stop the virtual machine because we want to see some kind of failures, and then we can act on it. So let's go back to Microsoft Azure portal one more time and create a storage account and come back to this wizard once again. So let's go to storage account creation, and then I wanted to just run the storage account creation process. So this is going to be very quick because if you have not gone through this lecture earlier about the storage account, you can check out that. We talked a lot about all these options for creating storage account, securing data protection, and the networking options also on a storage account, and type of the storages, all that. So now the storage account is created. Let's go back to the virtual machine, and in the operation section for the backup, try to click on restore because we have the backup now. So just click on a restore VM. So we are not doing the file recovery, just the backup restoration of the VM. So again, I have to select the restoration point. So since the date has been changed already, so I'm gonna actually go back and check the current date specific, like the restoration point. And now once I select it, now I should be able to click on replace existing, and then staging location is my storage account, and click on restore. So this takes some time to restore, and however, if you see here, I got actually validation failed. The reason being the virtual machine, because we are trying to do restore an existing virtual machine called VM01. What does it mean? It has to go to a stop state, but we're not doing a stop state. So that's what it says. Hey, you have to shut down the VM and then try again. So I'm gonna stop the virtual machine by shutting down, proper shutdown, and then I should be able to revalidate this checkbox. So just click on stop, and the virtual machine got stopped now. So I'll just go back to this wizard and just close and then say click on restore. It's going to revalidating everything. So because the virtual machine is already stopped, so it's triggering the restore point for the virtual machine 1. So this might take some time for the restoration because definitely it will take to restore the entire backup or the snapshot of the virtual machine. So if I just go back to my all jobs, I can see here the backup taking was failed. That means before we overwrite on a virtual machine, it will take a backup. So that got failed for some reason, but it has restored successfully. So if you see here, it is currently in progress. So it's gonna complete in a minute or so. So it took close to 18 minutes time, and if I just do a quick refresh, still doing. But if you see the progress, it's just completed 1% of the job. And let me fast forward this video for you so that you can view everything without missing any of the screens. So I'll just open up that. So that backup was failed, but restoration is still going on. And I'll just click on this. This restoration is success, but the backup was still in progress and it got actually failed. So that's fine. We'll just look at by connecting this job. So if you see here, this is 100% completed. So that's good. And the update status is successful. Now 127 GB got transferred. That's amazing. Let's go to virtual machine 01 and try to reconnect by starting the virtual machine. You remember we stopped the virtual machine and restored, and we have to start the virtual machine again. Then we can reconnect to the virtual machine. So I just started the virtual machine in the backend quickly and connecting to the virtual machine. Just for the sake of the time saving, I'm fast forwarding all these screens and just the video recording fast forwarding. And if I just go to my file explorer, I should be able to see the virtual machine with the file that we have created before backup, and the file is exist now, and also data is exist. So that's how we can restore a virtual machine on existing virtual machine. That means on a same VM we restored, so which is losing if any of the data is there. It will, I mean, it's just basically it's taking back to the olden days or taking back to the previous state of that virtual machine. Now we're going to perform the second method, which is restoring the backup on additional virtual machine. Let's say you have a VM01 now, right? So we wanted to restore this virtual machine by keeping this machine as it is, but restoration should happen on a VM02. Why? Maybe let's say you want to go back to this state and do some kind of changes, or you want to see what kind of changes has happened for your business case. So that's what we are trying to do. So I clicked on a restore on the VM and selecting my app consistency, again application consistency level, click OK. That's my restoration point. And earlier we used replacing the VM01, but this time we are using creating a new virtual machine store, and restore type is new virtual machine and create a virtual machine name. So this is going to be a VM02, and I'm choosing the backup VNet because VNet is important here, and new VNet or what kind of VNet you're gonna put it this virtual machine. And also the subnet, yes, again VNet and subnet, and here the staging storage account that needs to be shown, and then click on restore. That would take quickly. This time the complete restoration would happen, and we will be getting another virtual machine gets created within this Azure cloud. So you see here restoration job was triggered. So let's go back to all jobs and see. You would be getting the job status. So let's monitor the job jobs. You see here it's still going in progress. So if I just click on that job to get more details of that job, you see here the original VM name is VM01, and the target VM is it's going to create a VM02, and the target VNet it's specifying, and the staging a storage account it's showing, and current job progress is close to 1%, and that's how it's gonna work. Everything is showing here, and I'll just pause here the entire video recording, and then I'll come back here so that it will be clear for you. So now 100% completed, and if I just go back to the virtual machine, or if I just refresh, the job status is completed, the restore is complete. That's good. And as a next step, I should be able to go back to virtual machine 2. That's a VM02 should be there. So it took 12 minutes, and then I'll just go to virtual machines. I should be able to see here VM02 also. That's good, and I can use the same username and password to connect to this virtual machine, but this is in a different public IP. This is into same VNet, same subnet. That's what I mentioned. But if you have different VNet requirement, you can go through it so that it will not give you any conflict if really wanted. So I just use the same user ID and password. I'm able to connect to the virtual machine, and I'll just check my application status by connecting here, by opening a file explorer on this virtual machine. So it's taking some time to log in. It just completed the login. Since I did not fast forward this video, it's taking some time. It's midnight, 4 a.m. So let's go to the virtual machine file explorer quickly and go to this PC and C drive and before backup. So that's a folder. The file exists and the data also exists for us. So this concludes restoring from VM01 backup to VM02. That's what this demonstration does. Now it's time for us to understand and create a next level of scenario, which is just to take the backup to a disk and store within the resource group. Later point we can either download or we can restore out of that disk to create a new virtual machine. So just wanted to show you on a VM02, it does not have a backup because it's a fresh installation of a virtual machine. So if you want to cover a backup, you can take the ASR specific, that's a recovery service vault specific, and the backup policies, and you can click on enable so that this virtual machine also takes a backup. But in our case, we are not doing anything here. Just wanted to give you a heads up on this. Now as a next step, I'll just go to VM01 and to perform additional demo. So in this case, the demo is for backup the entire VM to a new disk. That's what we are trying to do. There's a third option which we are trying to do. So let's click on all restore the VM and see this time by selecting a restoration point and click OK. And here this time we are not creating a new virtual machine. Instead, we'll say restore to a disk. So why we have to do this is maybe later point I can actually connect this disk to a new VM. I can do that, or I can download this VM specific disk and copy my files by mounting this VHD file. So I can play with VHD file the way I want it. That's what it means actually. You can connect this VHD to a VM, or you can download, you can copy the files, and you can mount to your on-premises. The way you want it, you can do it. So that's where the restore disk option we would choose. So we're clicking on a new restore to a disk and staging account, again a storage account which we are showing here. In this case, again staging account would be my PaddyMaddy storage account, and click on store restore. That would take some time because it has to create 127 GB of disk to be created as it is out of that VM's backup. So it has triggered. So you know by this time where to track. So you should go to all jobs and track that. So you see here it's currently in a progress. And this is the job actually went failed. That's why it's actually doing all that job. So ignore this, but the restore is still going on, and click on that. so that you get this status of 1% and it is restoring to a disk. That's what it's trying to say. So I'll just pass this for some time so that the job completes now. So you see here 99% is completed. I'll just refresh by, if you see here it's completed but it's still in progress, that means I have to refresh. So that's a simple visualization error, I would say, or a bug kind of thing. So I'll just go back there and click on the job. You see here it's completed, so I'll just do a quick refresh and click on the job to restore. So it's already restored. And if I want to view the where is my VHD file, if I just open up my storage account, if you think that here my VHD file is there, no, you would actually find here only the JSON files. I'll show you that by going to my container. I'll just click on my container, container, and then you see here this is where the folder got created. There's a container name, and you see here all these are page blobs, and these are actually JSON file. If you see the extension, these all are JSON files. So we can't do anything with the JSON files with the a few kbs of the file. So if you think that where is our disk, the disk comes as a new disk, not in your storage account. Instead, it will be in your resource group. So it comes as a normal restore to restore as the disk. So later point we can point that disk to Azure virtual machine, or maybe you can download it. So let's go back to that resource group. So our resource group is backup demo. So click on backup demo resource group, and you see here we have a lot of resources that we created so far, like VM01, VM02, and VNet, all of that. And if you get confused state what was that new disk, you can just click on your VM1 and check out the disk name. So I'm sure that it's going to be 204 ending one, but just to get more idea which disk is that, you can open in a new you can open up your virtual machine and go to disks and see here what was the disk it was connected. So this is the disk which was used for the VM01, but out of the backup we created a different disk, so that could be not the 34, so it could be a different one. So it should be 204, so ending with 204, that's a disk. So this disk is available as a just a disk format. So what you can do with this disk is you can download this disk, or you can create a virtual machine out of this disk. So you can do that. So in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm not interested to create a VM, but if you are interested, you can click on create a VM, and then this VM connects to a virtual machine and it boots up, and then you give the user ID password. It's as simple as you create a new virtual machine, but the backend disk is this. But I'm going to actually download this virtual machine. So for that, what I can do is I can simply enable to make my disk to download. And you can check out all these disk updated, disk created date, and timestamp, all that. And you can change the disk performance to one premium to another premium level. And this is where the disk export option is available. If you click on generate URL, this URL, it's going to generate a URL. You can just copy that URL to your storage explorer or to your browser, and you can download that, and the link can be expired within 360 seconds. So I'll just click on this generate URL just to show you if you're quite new, and this is going to be generated, and this disk will be put into a maintenance kind of mode where disk export option will set it. So you have to unset that post to the downloading. So in my case, I'll just copy this URL by clicking the copy and opening a new browser, and copy paste and hit enter. It starts downloading. You see here it's going to download on my virtual machine. So I'll just cancel this because it takes a lot of time for me and bandwidth, so I'll just cancel. And also once you download it, you should be click on cancel export, so that this job of canceling exporting is completely stopped. Then you can create out of this virtual machine if you want to create any new virtual machine. So that's how it's going to work. I hope this entire lecture is useful for backing up your virtual machine. So we witnessed within this demo to restore to same virtual machine, also taking the backup and restore to new virtual machine, and also taking the backup to disk, and out of that we can create a new virtual machine, or you can download to your machine. And we performed all these options as a demo. Thank you for taking time to learn on this. I hope it's really useful for you. Kindly take a minute to review the course. Thank you.